You think power means being surrounded by allies, advisors, friends, and smiling faces. You think the throne is warm, the crown heavy but shared. You're wrong. Dead wrong. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. Not because you push people away, but because you must. If you don't, you won't survive the fall. Everyone falls except those who build fortresses. Not of stone or iron, but of silence, distance, and strategy. That is the real throne. That's what Machiavelli whispered to princes 5 centuries ago, and what every CEO, politician, general, and king who survives still follows today. You wonder why the most powerful are always alone. It's not because they're broken or cold, it's because they've read the playbook. And the first rule, trust is a luxury you can't afford when your neck is on the line. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a world leader, a billionaire, or a general laughing freely in a room full of equals? Not stage photos, not press conferences. Real laughter, real vulnerability, real trust. You haven't because it doesn't happen at the top. You think it's sad? Maybe it is. But sadness doesn't keep you alive. Strategy does. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to teach kindness. He wrote it to teach survival. And survival demands isolation by design, not accident. Every person around you is a potential dagger. Smiles don't matter. Loyalty, prove it. And even then, don't believe it. Loyalty shifts with money, fear, and opportunity. You think I'm being cynical? Good. Cynicism is armor for the powerful. Naivety, that's the uniform of the dead. Back to Florence 1530. A man in exile, stripped of power, watches the Medici tighten their grip on the city he once served. His name, Niccolo Machiavelli. He isn't writing philosophy. He isn't writing ethics. He's writing a survival manual for rulers who don't want to end up in a ditch with their throats cut. And in chapter 26, he drops the bomb. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. You've heard it. Everyone quotes it, but few understand it. It's not about cruelty, it's about control. Love is fickle. Fear is reliable. Love asks for favors. Fear obeys commands. Love whispers behind your back. Fear guards its tongue and watches yours. That is the first brick in the fortress. You don't build walls to keep enemies out. You build them to remind your friends you are not one of them anymore. And here's the twist. Those who rise to power already know this instinctively. They don't need to read Machiavelli, they live him. Watch any CEO after mass layoffs, any president after a scandal, any general after betrayal. They don't cry in public. They don't rage. They don't explain. They stand alone, silent, unmoved. Not because they're heartless, but because showing pain is showing weakness. And weakness is an invitation, an opening, a signal to the wolves that dinner is served. The second brick in Machiavelli's fortress is distance. The closer people get, the more they see. And the more they see, the more they plot. Distance keeps you untouchable. Not unreachable, just untouchable. You let people see the performance, but never the rehearsal. You let them admire the crown, but never touch your scars. Look around at the powerful today. Do you really know them? You see their speeches, their curated interviews, their stage-managed appearances, but their private thoughts, their true emotions, their genuine fears, locked away, hidden. Because once you give people access to your raw self, you hand them the keys to your destruction. That late-night confession, that vulnerable moment, that one mistake, they'll use it when it suits them. Distance keeps that weapon out of their hands. This is why the fortress isn't just walls, it's layers. Every person is kept exactly where they belong. Advisors close enough to serve, but never close enough to betray without cost. Friends rare, chosen, and monitored. Lovers bound by secrecy and need not by fantasy. The fortress arranges everyone into categories: useful, dangerous, replaceable. And if you're ruthless enough, you'll move them when they shift from one category to another. Machiavelli wrote that men are ungrateful, fickle liars and deceivers. It sounds harsh, but history proves him right. Betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those you once trusted. Caesar wasn't killed by his enemies. He was killed by Brutus. Kings are toppled not by the mob outside the castle, but by the conspirators inside it. Betrayal is always an inside job. That's why distance matters. And distance creates more than safety, it creates mystique. When you don't explain, people speculate. When you don't reveal, people imagine. And their imagination will always paint you larger, darker, more formidable than reality. That aura is protection. A king who is too familiar becomes ordinary. A ruler who is too accessible becomes vulnerable. But one who maintains distance becomes untouchable, half man, half myth. So the second rule of survival is this: never be fully known. Let them see parts of you, never the whole. Keep your distance. Guard your silence. Protect your fortress. Because the moment they think they truly understand you is the moment you're already at risk. The third brick in Machiavelli's fortress is silence. Power is not loud. It doesn't need to be. Weak men chatter, explain, justify, defend. Strong men let silence do the work, because silence unsettles. Silence forces others to reveal themselves, and silence, when mastered, becomes louder than any speech. Think about the last time you argued with someone who refused to take the bait. They didn't snap back. They didn't scramble to defend themselves. They just sat still, watching you burn energy. How did it feel? Frustrating, unbalanced. You ended up revealing more than you wanted: your fears, your motives, your weakness. That's the power of silence. It flips the game. Instead of you reading them, they're reading you. Machiavelli advised rulers never to reveal their full mind. Words are ammunition, and once spent, they cannot be retrieved. Every explanation gives your enemies a weapon to use against you. Every confession teaches them how to break you. But silence leaves them guessing, and the human mind fears nothing more than uncertainty. This is why the fortress isn't just walls and distance, it's silence between the bricks. You don't rush to explain decisions. You don't justify strategies. You let people stew in doubt, and doubt becomes respect. Because when they can't predict you, they fear you. And when they fear you, they obey. Silence also creates gravity. The fewer words you speak, the heavier each word becomes. A single sentence from a silent man lands like a hammer. A single glance can silence a room. That's why the most powerful don't talk much. They don't need to. Their silence carries weight, and their words carry finality. But here's the catch: silence isn't emptiness. It's control. You don't stay quiet because you have nothing to say. You stay quiet because you're choosing when to strike. Silence builds tension. Tension builds attention. And attention is power. So the third rule is this: never waste words. Speak rarely. Speak deliberately. Let silence do most of the work. Because the less they hear from you, the more they imagine, and imagination is always more dangerous than truth. The fortress of power is built on fear, distance, and silence. But Machiavelli knew that even with walls, you can't stand still. Power is never secure. It must be tested, sharpened, and defended, which is why the next brick is one most people fear to use, but the ruthless embrace. The fourth brick in Machiavelli's fortress is cruelty, but cruelty with precision. Weak rulers think kindness will buy loyalty. It doesn't. It buys opportunists who will drain you until someone stronger comes along. On the other hand, reckless cruelty breeds rebellion. The true art is calculated cruelty, rare, deliberate, and unforgettable. Machiavelli argued it's better to strike once hard than to bleed slowly through hesitation. A single decisive act of cruelty establishes fear and prevents endless challenges. Think of it like surgery. The knife hurts, but it saves the body from rot. A ruler who punishes quickly and visibly discourages 10 future betrayals. A ruler who forgives endlessly encourages 10 more. History is full of this lesson. The kings who hesitated, who hoped mercy would reform traitors, all ended the same way: stabbed in the back, toppled by conspiracies, or mocked into irrelevance. Caesar showed mercy to Brutus once. We know how that ended. Machiavelli would say mercy in the wrong place is cruelty to yourself. But cruelty is not chaos. It's not rage. It's not lashing out over small insults. It's surgical. You cut once cleanly with purpose. You don't punish to soothe your ego. You punish to send a message. And that message is simple: betrayal has no return. Treachery is final. Fear of consequence keeps more men loyal than love of favor ever will. Cruelty also creates stability. When people know the rules and the cost of breaking them, they discipline themselves. A ruler who hesitates or forgives too easily creates confusion, and confusion invites chaos. But one who acts firmly without apology creates order. Fear may not win hearts, but it wins obedience, and obedience sustains power. So the fourth rule is this: do not fear cruelty. Fear hesitation, fear weakness. A single act of decisive cruelty delivered with calculation prevents years of disorder. The fortress is not only walls of silence and distance, it is also lined with the sharp edge of consequence. Because in the game of power, it's not cruelty that destroys rulers. It's softness, mistaken for weakness. And once you're seen as weak, the fortress cracks from within. The fifth brick in Machiavelli's fortress is unpredictability. Once people can read you, they can plan against you. Once they can plan against you, you've already lost. Predictability is comfort, and comfort is poison for the powerful. To survive, you must keep others guessing, not through chaos, but through controlled unpredictability. Machiavelli compared rulers to beasts. Sometimes you must be the lion, ferocious, obvious, a show of force. Other times you must be the fox, subtle, deceptive, invisible. If you only roar, they will learn how to endure your noise. If you only sneak, they will learn to guard their traps. But if you shift between fox and lion, never letting them anticipate which side of you they will face, they are forced to live in permanent caution. And permanent caution is permanent control. This unpredictability doesn't mean acting irrational. It means choosing moments of surprise. Show kindness when cruelty is expected. Show indifference when they crave reaction. Show strength when they think you're cornered. Each disruption breaks their rhythm, and when rhythm is broken, fear takes over. Think of the generals who feigned retreat only to ambush stronger armies. Think of leaders who played the fool only to strike with clarity when underestimated. Think of rulers who punished selectively, making every man wonder if he might be next. This is not randomness, it's theater. A theater where you are the only actor who knows the script. Unpredictability also protects the fortress. Distance creates mystery. Silence builds tension. Cruelty establishes consequence. But unpredictability ensures no one can calculate you. And when they cannot calculate you, they cannot defeat you. Every step becomes dangerous, every decision uncertain, every move haunted by what you might do. The weak want to be understood. They crave to be known, explained, predictable. The powerful understand that to be fully known is to be fully owned. So they remain unreadable. They cultivate contradictions. They let people argue endlessly about who they really are, all while they quietly hold the reins. So the fifth rule is this: never let them map you. Be sometimes lion, sometimes fox, sometimes cold, sometimes merciful, sometimes present, sometimes absent, predictable in nothing but your ability to surprise. Because the fortress that is unpredictable can never be breached. Its walls shift too quickly for any enemy to scale. And when people cannot predict you, they do the only thing left: they submit. The sixth brick in Machiavelli's fortress is control of information. Power doesn't only depend on what you know, it depends on what others don't. The weak spill details about themselves, carelessly handing out secrets like coins. They overshare, they explain, they defend. Every word becomes a string for others to pull, but the powerful guard their information like treasure. They reveal little, listen much, and let silence create their advantage. Machiavelli understood that knowledge flows both ways. The more others know about you, the easier you are to manipulate. The more you know about them, the easier they are to control. Which is why the fortress is built not only of stone and silence, but also of shadows, watching, recording, remembering. People betray themselves constantly with small slips, envy in their tone, fear in their pauses, ambition in their questions. You don't need to interrogate them. You just need to listen. At the same time, you give them almost nothing in return. You don't reveal your full intentions, only fragments. You don't explain your motives, only outcomes. You don't speak of your goals, you let results speak instead. The less they know, the more they speculate. And speculation breeds caution. They start disciplining themselves in your presence, terrified of what you might know that they don't. This is why rulers often surround themselves with spies, informants, and watchers. Not because they're paranoid, but because information is the first defense against betrayal. Betrayal never happens without signs: an unusual alliance, a whispered word, a sudden withdrawal of loyalty. But only the watchful notice, and only the disciplined act in time. Control of information also shapes reputation. If you flood people with details, they see you as ordinary. If you reveal only fragments, they turn you into myth. The fortress thrives on this imbalance. You know more than they think, and they know less than they believe. You hold the map while they wander in the dark. So the sixth rule is this: guard, your words harvest theirs. Reveal little, observe much. Make silence your shield and listening your weapon. Because the one who controls information doesn't need armies to rule. He rules through foresight, and foresight is invincibility. The fortress of power doesn't just repel enemies, it starves them. It leaves them blind while your eyes see everything. The seventh brick in Machiavelli's fortress is discipline of emotion. Nothing betrays a man faster than his own reactions. Anger shows where he is weak. Desire shows what can be bought. Fear shows what can be broken. The ruthless ruler understands this emotion is not to be erased, but to be mastered. Most people wear their feelings on their face. They flinch when insulted. They glow when flattered. They crumble under pressure. Every reaction becomes a roadmap to their soul. But the fortress demands something different. It demands unreadability. You do not flinch even when cut. You do not beam even when praised. You do not panic even when threatened. Your silence and stillness become a mask no one can penetrate. Machiavelli advised that rulers must appear merciful, faithful, humane, even while being ready to act against those virtues when survival requires it. This requires emotional discipline, to play the role convincingly while never losing sight of reality, to let others believe you are soft while inside you are steel, to let them think they know you while they never truly see the core. Discipline of emotion is not numbness, it's control. You can feel rage, but you release it only when it strengthens your hand. You can feel grief, but you bury it until you are alone. You can feel joy, but you share it only when it builds loyalty. The weak are ruled by their emotions. The strong use their emotions as tools. And the ruler who masters this discipline is untouchable because nothing can bait him, nothing can rattle him, nothing can be used to pull his strings. But there's another side to emotional discipline. It's not just about suppression, it's about projection. Sometimes silence terrifies more than anger. Sometimes calm unsettles more than rage. Sometimes a faint smile can plant more doubt than 1,000 words. You don't just hide your emotions, you weaponize them. Every expression becomes deliberate. Every reaction is chosen. So the seventh rule is this: be unreadable when they seek your weakness and deliberate when they expect your truth. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them fear that they never truly know what you feel. Because once you control your emotions, you control the game. The fortress is not built only of walls and weapons, it's built of faces, silences, and performances. And the one who can master himself can master anyone. The final brick in Machiavelli's fortress is endurance. Building power is one thing, keeping it is another. Most rulers rise fast and fall faster, not because they lack strength, but because they lacked patience. They grew tired of the discipline relaxed, the vigilance opened the gates of their fortress too wide. And when they did, betrayal walked in smiling. Endurance means never believing the game is over. The moment you think you've won is the moment you start to lose. Enemies wait for fatigue. Allies wait for complacency. Betrayal waits for softness. Power isn't secured by one victory, it's secured by vigilance that never sleeps. Machiavelli warned that fortune is fickle. Today's friend is tomorrow's rival. Today's peace is tomorrow's rebellion. Today's loyal follower is tomorrow's traitor. The fortress survives because its walls are tended daily. Silence must be renewed. Distance must be maintained. Cruelty must remain sharp. Information must stay controlled. Emotions must stay disciplined. Each brick requires care, or the whole structure crumbles. Endurance also means carrying the weight of isolation. Power is not companionship. It is not comfort. It is not warmth. It is burden. To endure it, you must accept loneliness as the price of survival. Most men cannot. They long for connection, for trust, for unguarded moments. And in chasing that, they hand their enemies the knife. The ruler who endures learns to find strength in solitude, purpose in vigilance, and peace in discipline. And here's the paradox: the fortress is not just for defense. It is for rule. Those who build it are feared, yes, but also respected. Their silence commands attention. Their distance creates mystique. Their cruelty prevents chaos. Their unpredictability inspires caution. Their mastery of information, emotion, and endurance makes them inevitable. So the last rule is this: never dismantle your fortress. Not for love, not for friendship, not for comfort, Because the moment you do, you are no longer a ruler, you are prey. Machiavelli's lesson endures through centuries because human nature has not changed. The faces are modern, the settings new, but the instincts remain ancient. Betrayal is still inside the gates. Loyalty is still fragile. Power is still lonely. And the fortress is still the only place where rulers survive. So build it, guard it, live inside it, because those who don't last.